I think with regards to the agenda, I need to read the little script here. Thanks, John. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, members of the public who wish to watch and listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. WCTV, Channel 9, Comcast, Xfinity, and Channel 37 on Verizon Fios, and live stream at wctv.org. The meeting of the Wilmington Economic Development Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members or the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to listen to the meeting while in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 646-558-8656 and entering the meeting ID 813-1222-5763. Then press pound and press pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment by following the steps previously noted, and then press *9 on their telephone keypad. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. All callers using this feature will be placed into a queue in the order that they entered the prompt. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. So that is that. Business tended to. Our first order of business of the June 16th Wilmington Economic Development Committee meeting, scheduled for 6, and it's 6:10 now. Oh, so you know what? Before I go, Lil would typically be taking notes. Do I have a volunteer to do that in her stead? Thank you, Carol. That's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, really?
Mr. Chair, just so you're aware, I do record these and I can share the recording with anyone tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you mind, Carol, just capturing, at least in case there's the circumstance where Lil Maselli wouldn't be able to view the recording?
No, I'll capture it. I just never done it for this committee before, so I'm not quite sure what she was capturing, but I'll get the highlights, I guess. How's that? Who attended and that sort of a thing?
Yeah, take a look at, if you want to capture basically the highlights. And then I would say, if it ends up being that we're going to ask you to send out the minutes, just take a look at what the last set.
Look back on them. Yep, will do.
That's the format.
Yep, okay.
So thank you for that. I appreciate it. That being said, our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the May 28th meeting. I don't know if everyone has had the opportunity. I did send them out previously, and I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to cast any observations or corrections to those minutes. So these are the minutes from the May 29th meeting that we held on Zoom.
Are you going to show them, Mike?
No, they were sent out previously as an email attachment. So at this point, it's an opportunity for folks to have to make the changes or revisions or make a motion to approve them as they were sent out.
I'll make a motion to approve, Suzanne. This is Suzanne.
Thank you, Suzanne.
I'll second that, Nancy.
Seconded by Nancy Valley. Any discussion on that? I see none. All in favor? Well, I'll just do a roll call. I'm a yes. Pat?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
So it's unanimous to approve. Thank you very much. Bullet number 2 is local economy in the pandemic. Review the 4-phase reopening. John, I think this would be an opportunity, if you don't mind, to bring up that page 15 of the PDF. Reopening Massachusetts in phases. There it is. Yeah. So we are knee deep in phase 2, and I must admit I haven't been paying real close attention to the second phase of phase two, which I think is the expansion of some of the dining options and some other things that they talked about doing a couple weeks into phase two. So retail, restaurants, lodging, nail salons, etc., were part of it. I don't know why I'm looking at that computer and it's right in front of me. And then phase three, which is set to begin. Someone have the date? I don't have the calendar in front of me, but it's the 26th, I think. Is that right? Or the 29th, I believe.
It's the 29th.
Yeah.
The 9th is a Monday, right? Yeah.
So that includes things like fitness centers, gyms, museums, casinos. Exciting.
Yeah.
Certainly, I'm anxious to see how casinos can pull this off. I mean, the amount of sanitizer that will have to be in a facility like that to make the places safe would be remarkable. So I guess I don't know. Is there any discussion about this or where Wilmington fits into the phases? We've all been witnessing. I think I have been. I haven't yet gone to some of the restaurants in Wilmington since the outdoor dining options were made available to them. But I saw lots of posts and lots of folks that had. So I don't know if anyone in the group has had that experience and what the observations are about that.
I haven't gone.
Haven't either. Done takeout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my observation has been that they've been very busy. Seems like they're selling out every night, at least at all their tables. I think a lot of restaurants don't have the capacity that perhaps they hoped or dreamed for, or perhaps can furnish right now. But it looks like the spaces that they have are pretty full.
Yeah, that's been my observation too. I drove by Saturday late afternoon, early evening, and there was already a wait line at Tremazo anyway. I think Red Heat had a similar experience, so I think that's good news generally. I mean, in the context of a global pandemic, I guess it's good to hear that restaurants are able to start opening and start to have customers seated. The question in my head that popped into my head over the last couple of days was, as the restrictions start to come down, and when and if the governor makes an announcement that he's releasing the state of emergency, I think that's the thing that's kind of running all this. I suspect that safety protocols will still be in place for the foreseeable future, requiring a reduction in the amount of folks that can be seated inside. So the question I guess I have, and I don't know, maybe Valerie, if you know the answer to this, is once they are allowed to have indoor seating, will this temporary permit for these outdoor seating areas, will those go away because now people can be indoors? Or can those outdoor facilities stay in place all the way through, I think it's November 1st, even when we have indoor? I'm hoping the answer is yes, they'll be able to stay in place. Nancy, have you heard, or Valerie, have you heard?
I don't know. I guess I mean, just practically, if their indoor seating is still limited, then I would think there would be capacity to have outdoor as well, because it's not kind of a full house as far as parking and all of that goes. So practically, seems like it could work, but I haven't heard.
Yeah.
It's my assumption that that's exactly what they're going to do. They're looking for, anything to fill their house. So I think that they're all expecting that. So unless there's something else from the town, I think they're expecting to do that. I think the big issue right now that I'm hearing is with the staff and getting staff back. And I'm not just talking restaurants, I'm talking even like the nail salons that are going to open in step 2. It's great that they're open, but in particular, the one I go to, it's the owner that, is going to be the only one there. None of her staff will come back until, until August 1st. So
that's when
and I think
that's when their unemployment or their stimulus checks stop coming.
That's extra $600 ends, yes. And if that ends up getting extended, then then there's even a bigger issue. But hoping that doesn't happen.
Mike, is the question too, were you asking too, is there a difference between how restaurants will be able to operate between phase 2 and phase 3? Was that kind of the, because right now it's just outdoor eating, right?
Right. Yeah.
And in phase 3, it's going to be indoor eating as well. I'm not.
I think it was even suggested that inside of phase 2, if the data supported it, that that they would allow limited indoor.
But we don't have that going on right now in Wilmington. We don't think indoor.
That's correct. Yeah, we know that there's no indoor still. The governor hasn't allowed for any indoor across the state, so it's certainly not happening in Wilmington. I was in New Hampshire as of an hour before this meeting, and they're allowing it now. In fact, they allowed it starting, I think, yesterday, limited indoor. But again, they're doing the limited indoor with their already existing outdoor that they had allowed. So I was presuming that what Nancy said, that would be the case. And I think we'll go on that assumption as well. I just want to make sure that
phase 3 will be limited indoor. Okay.
Yeah. So that's fine. I just wanted to kind of review quickly where we are in the reopening status. And that was why I wanted that graphic to go up. The next bullet under this this agenda item is to review a list of economic development resources that Suzanne took a fair amount of time to put together last week, and she sent it to me. And I regret that I didn't get it out or get it up on the website and stuff. And frankly, I think, I wanted to have a quick conversation with you folks about, process. What can we be doing as a committee to be a resource to the local business community? And certainly the Chamber of Commerce is a tremendous resource to its members, but can we, take that and take it to another level without duplicating efforts? And I think there is some merit to the idea of having a collection of access points and information resources all in one place. And to me, it makes sense that that should be on the economic development page on the town's website. So these links and some others, and Suzanne, I hope you'll allow me to apologize. I did kind of pull a couple off that I wasn't necessarily sure fit into the economic development sort of title. Not to suggest they weren't good information, but I wasn't sure that they fit under our umbrella. So
that's fine.
I definitely did create the links. I tried to, pardon me, pretty it up a little bit with some bullets and make it look a little bit more seamless. I'm not at all married to this format. In fact, maybe this format this would end up being a PDF that would link or that it would be placed somewhere onto our website, our link on the town's website. So just going quickly through them. I'm sorry, I have it. It's kind of small, but yeah. So the top is the it's tough to see. Sorry. Thanks, John. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to click on. Let's not click on them. They are fairly self-intuitive. Town of Wilmington, current information on outbreak of coronavirus. So that takes you to, you can see the hyperlink there. The next one is the Massachusetts homepage for COVID reopening. So if businesses are looking for access to, where do I find information about this stuff? A number of these links are based on the description, go to different categories. Rather than an individual or a business owner or a professional having to go and Google and do the hunting, some of that information is already is right in front of them here. I want to draw our attention to the last item on this, which is, no, I'm sorry, the second to last. When can my business reopen? And that goes back to that that grid that we were just looking at, the phased reopening plan that the governor has put forth. So it's at a glance opportunities for them to, for folks to have access to this information. The question, I guess, is where does it go? And how does it go? So I have a tendency to want to change my screen, but John, I don't know if you can link to the economic development page on the website. Did I give you that link? Was that one of the things I had sent you?
Sure, 1 second. I have it up.
Yeah, so
nice.
You can see that's us. And the top left has description and purpose, guide for new businesses, Main Street market study, stats and facts, et cetera. But right in the middle, under Economic Development Committee, is the COVID-19 resources and guidance for business, which John, do you mind clicking on that? I can't remember where that takes you. Does it take you to the state?
It does.
Yeah, so what I was going to suggest, and that's fine, I think that's a reasonable place to go, but is the document that we were just looking at, the PDF that I prepared using the links that Ms. Sullivan had sent, can that link go to either another page or open the document? Because I think that link, the state's link, is in the document. You follow what I'm saying? And I don't know, does anyone else have a suggestion as to where that should live?
I like the idea of replacing what you have up there because it's got more information. Replacing the first paragraph.
So the first bullet that says COVID-19 resources and
Yes.
guidance, if we clicked that, it would open the PDF that was up just a moment ago.
Yes, I like that idea myself.
Is there any objection to that from anybody? Is that an easy thing to do, John?
Mr. Chair, it is very easy.
Okay. Rob, you on board?
Yes.
Pat?
Looks good to me.
Nancy?
Yeah.
All right. Suzanne, is that going to be acceptable to you?
Sure, I can't see anything, but it sounds good.
I
Trust
would
me.
just add a couple things. You know, I have all these on the chamber website. We have a COVID page. But I also like what Tewksbury did. They have a nice format that they've been sending out. And it has, you know, I mean, all the links are on the Mass.gov website. But again, to make it a little bit quicker for folks to get to it, you might want to take a look at Tewksbury's page too. It comes out from the town of Tewksbury.
I'll see if I can bring it up.
Yeah.
The question I guess I would have is, how do we revise or update that document? So, you know, we have version A today, and we could make it alive. It took 2 weeks to come up with this version. So, you know, it should live and breathe and evolve as anyone in the committee has the opportunity to do that.
Well, I do it on a weekly basis for the chamber, so I can certainly, if there's updates, I can, you know, pass it your way too. I mean, it's just, you know, whenever something new comes out, or they update something on the phases on the Mass, you know, .gov site, we just take it from there.
So where are you getting that from, Tewksbury? Is it the top right under news, or?
No, it's actually the town of Tewksbury. I don't even think it's on their economic development site. It's the emails that go out directly from the town.
Oh, okay. So like a newsletter.
Yeah. You know, some of the things that are really important are the things that, like, you know, the signage that they need to have in their business, those posters, things like that. And so just the one-liners that are all clickable, I think is important. I can try and find one.
So, yeah.
Mike, I think that's why we put just a link to the state's kind of general page for it, because as they update the information, then, you know, you're getting new information just by going to the link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what links you had on that PDF, but are those similar where you click on that link and you're going to something that they're going to be updating anyway, so that, you know, we wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, that's how I do it. So, you know, I have like the important things, like the, you know, all the loan stuff, the EDL stuff, the IDO loan, the PPP, the, you know, when can my business open, the specific standards, all that. So, and it does link right to that page on mass.gov. So when they update it, it's automatically updated.
Yeah, you know,
it's just pulling it out of the mass.gov so that it's, you know, people again don't have to search.
right.
Could we link to Nancy's page then as one of the, on Suzanne's list, put a link to, you know,
The Chamber of
Chamber
Commerce.
of Commerce? Yeah, why not do that as well? I mean, people can kind of pick and choose their information. Would that be okay, Nancy?
That's fine. I think that we're trying to keep it separate though. And I think that, you know, it's definitely, I think it's great for it to come directly from the town. So, I mean, that's certainly something you can do, but, or you can add the chamber link to it, but I think it's important for it to come directly from the town.
Yeah, that's really the mission here. I will say this, I'm looking at it now. The second link on the page, hi, Jeff.
Good evening.
Good morning, whatever. Good day. Yeah, the second link is the Massachusetts main page, and it just goes to the reopening Massachusetts at mass.gov. So that's the wholesale, you know, the big, anyone can click on it and navigate around and find information if they wish to. We then offered, you know, it's probably, I think Suzanne did a good job of, and I take some of the credit too for having considered which of the locations at mass.gov would be the most prominent. Certainly not to discount the importance of signage requirements, you know, and the other things that a business has to do in order to adhere to the guidelines. It's all there and it's all underneath the main state page. But some of these other bullets are just things that maybe business owners wouldn't have thought of, or if they're, rather than go to mass.gov and search around, we've just sort of taken some of that work out of it for them. I'm sorry? Nothing. And then the last couple of references are to the U.S. Treasury, the United States Department of Treasury, and the CARES Act assistance for small business. And there's also a link for beware of COVID-19 scams that the U.S. Treasury Department put forth. So I thought those were good resources. You know, while rather than trying to maintain and update this, most of these links are out to larger organizations that have huge staffs, and those resources are being updated constantly. So I'm of the mind, frankly, to, unless something needs a dramatic update, this document is pretty comprehensive, and it's just it's a tool, and I believe that it is, to Nancy's point, it does a good job of representing, or of the town providing some information to businesses and business owners rather than a private enterprise like the Chamber of Commerce. Both are great resources, and the Chamber of Commerce should continue to be a resource to its members. But I think what we're trying to do, if we look at the mission statement of the Economic Development Committee, is for the town, through this committee and through the people at Town Hall, being a repository and a resource for some information. This is a start, you know? So, you know, it seemed like most folks were pretty amenable to having this displayed. So why don't we kind of start with that? And, you know, if there's an opportunity to grow it or revise it or edit it, we can certainly do that kind of on the fly as need be. So is that acceptable, folks?
Yes.
I think that sounds great, Mike.
Sorry, I'm just going to make it a note, a to-do for myself. I'll reach out to the appropriate folks tomorrow to ensure that that does take place.
Mike, can I go back to what we were talking about prior to this agenda topic? I'm just curious about how many folks, you know, restaurant owners or anyone else that actually came into the town hall and with, you know, plans for kind of their reopening for additional approvals.
Yeah,
Now,
well, the town manager just joined us, so it'd be interesting to see if.
So that I know of at least 3. There may have been more in the last day or so. I have not heard, but there are at least 3, which would be Tremezzo's, Red Heat Tavern, and the 99. Those are the ones that I'm aware of. So there's actually a 2-step process. One being to obtain the okay for reopen or to open in an outdoor setting, and then the second element is for these establishments that have all alcohol licenses to obtain approval to serve alcohol in those open areas. So essentially, when the businesses come in, they start with Shelley, and there's she reviews it along with Al Spalding and the fire chief, the police chief is, I think, on the checklist. And then it's a pretty expedited process. And then to the extent that they're looking for the alcohol, ability to sell alcohol, then that comes to my office, and essentially it's the same information for the most part that I'll review, except that we just want to confirm that that there's no issues, past issues with their alcohol license. So those are the three that I'm aware of.
Jeff, well, for the notes, I missed the second part was approval for the alcohol if in open areas. What was the first thing that they have to pass?
The first step is to obtain the okay to have an open seating area. Okay. So some of the things that are reviewed, there's a plan. It doesn't have to be an engineered plan, but essentially a sketch that identifies the location of where they're proposing to have their open seating area. If the establishment does not own the property, there needs to be a sign off by the property owner confirming that they're also okay with the open seating area. The fire chief certainly takes a look at it with respect to making sure that there's no issues with emergency vehicle access. So those are the kinds of things that get reviewed for that piece.
Okay, thank you.
So Jeff, I'm surprised that none of the dance companies or have come in. And now that I've seen that Yentl Farms is open, is there going to be an opportunity to do things at Yentl or on the field?
Like what? So right now the field, the turf field, as was the case prior to COVID, different groups that are looking to have access to the field have to complete an application with the rec department. It's largely the youth soccer teams, lacrosse teams, and otherwise. There still is no ability to have games, but they can do practices, and as long as they're in groups of not greater than 10.
But what in that, and I'm thinking Yentl specifically, what in the open area? I'm thinking like a recital, a dance recital.
That is not a permitted area, so we've established that as just an open space area. There's no permitting for that.
So here's a question. If a recital, I think, Nancy, would certainly imply that there's more than 10 people. So now you're starting to develop a crowd. And I suspect that would be strongly discouraged, but we can explore that more. I was thinking about, at least until phase 3, if a karate studio wanted to have a 9-person class, could they conduct that on the Yentl, the open green area, without a permit? Could they just sort of say, okay, send an email to their class students and say, meet us at the Yentl Park. We'll do it on the green, or I'm saying karate studio. Maybe it's a yoga studio, or any number of different fitness type of centers that maybe have a facility that they conduct those things indoors. They can't do that currently. Can they start having those classes or those sessions with small groups in the open on public land? Is a question that I think is they may be asking. I don't know, Nancy, I think that's a question that's been asked of you, right?
They're definitely asking. And what I've told them is just to go down to the town hall with a plan to get approval.
So the ability to use the green space at Yentl, as I indicated, there's no permit required from Recreation. The Board of Selectmen don't permit that. So different groups could use that space, recognizing that they don't have exclusive use of it. So if some other folks happen to be down there at the same time and want to play toss and catch or throw a frisbee or whatever, they're equally allowed to use the space. So certainly I don't see any problem with that. Again, they need to subscribe to the distancing issues and all that's been pretty well established at this point.
And where and besides Yentl, where else could they go?
Rotary.
Any of the if they were to use any of the fields, there would need to be a permit.
What about Rotary Park or the Common?
Yeah, I mean, Rotary Park, the Common. I know with regard to the bylaws associated with the use of the town common, it's supposed to be a not-for-profit organization that uses that space. I mean, and of course, the Board of Selectmen would need to okay it.
Okay, so we have Yentl and Rotary Park. That could be two options for those.
Yeah, again, Rotary Park would require approval from the Board of Selectmen. So the Yentl is the one space that does not require approval by any department or board.
What about any of the school fields, like the middle school or behind the Botwell School or any of those fields?
So any of the fields, there's a permitting process that they would go through, starting with the school department, and then it gets relayed to public buildings, public works, to see if there's any issues there. But it would start with the schools, because those fields are technically under the jurisdiction of the school department.
Okay.
So, you know, I certainly appreciate that. Just like every community has largely kind of bypassed some of that permitting for restaurants to have outdoor seating. Normally, I mean, I don't even know what the process would have been in a non-COVID world if Red Heat wanted to put a tent in their parking lot. But I suspect it wouldn't have been as quick to get to that as you guys made it, Jeff. So thank you very much for that, and to everyone involved in the town that sort of sped that process up and will continue to. So with regards to this kind of stuff, you know, phase 3 is 3 weeks away or so, 2 weeks away. You know, could the same expectation be asked of the town to sort of bypass the multi-step approval process for Rotary Park and the Common? I understand the school field, so maybe we could sort of bypass that, but at least giving some options to Yentl, Rotary, and the Common, or would that be something that I or someone from the Economic Development Committee go to the Board of Selectmen and request that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say approval, but that process be removed, at least for the foreseeable future, until we are freed from the COVID?
Certainly, there's no harm in making the request. I think, you know, I can't really speak for the board, but
right.
I would imagine there would be certainly some serious consideration given to that. I would add to the other space that, you know, we're talking about would be the Swain Green. So as you know, when the farmers market, for example, they use the Swain Green, that is a consequence of getting approval from the Board of Selectmen. So in terms of spaces that might be available, I would add that to the list, subject to the Board of Selectmen's approval.
Okay. So yeah, perhaps I'll either write something up or ask permission from the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to just have a couple of moments of your next meeting to have that discussion. So Nancy, did you get what you were looking for out of that?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on that bullet? Okay. I'm going to try to continue marching forward. John, if you don't mind, bring up the bullet number, not bullet, but the link to my email I sent you for number 3, the Shared Streets and Grant Program. once again, credit to Miss Sullivan. Hello, Miss Sullivan. Thanks for, I think you're back on screen here, right? Suzanne had, and I think just she's finding things by working hard and just being aware. So I appreciate you drawing this to my attention and now by virtue of that to everyone else's. This is a grant program administered by the state, and it's a grant to a community, not to a business. So in this case, and I don't want to speak as an expert, I'm very, very limited in my knowledge of this program, only by virtue of what I've read. But there doesn't seem to be a ton of requirements here. It is a grant program that can range from something as small as $5,000 up to $300,000 for a city or town to quickly implement or expand improvements to sidewalks, curbs, streets, or on-street parking spaces and off-street parking lots in support of public health, safe mobility, and renewed commerce in the communities. So the idea here is, are there opportunities for the town of Wilmington, the government of the town of Wilmington, to avail itself of some of these grant funds for the benefit of, I'll say infrastructure, for the benefit of some aspect of our roads, sidewalks, something that would, that the town could engage in that would be directly I guess stated specifically for the benefit of our commercial enterprises. So, you know, we wouldn't have access to this grant funding to put a sidewalk on Gloria Way. That'd be lovely, but you know, there's no business would benefit from that. But perhaps are there, you know, maintenance or cleanup kind of opportunities or projects that could happen along Main Street, perhaps, or in North Wilmington. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. So I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. Certainly, I wanted to bring it. You know, I suspect Jeff, you and/or your team are aware of this, but you know, Mr. Woods and others throughout the town, DPW and otherwise, you know, have their list of projects that they wish that they'd like to get done, and you have your Chapter 90 funds and the funds that come through taxation. But are there projects that we are not pursuing for lack of funding that we could potentially pursue with grant funds? So, you know, I'll kind of lob it out there to the membership. And, you know, Jeff, you joined the call, and I really do appreciate it. It might have been something we would have lobbed the question in a more formal manner to you. So I don't want to, you know, put you up against a wall on this question right now. If it's something you want to give some contemplation to, or if you'd like for us to formally put together some ideas or suggestions, maybe we can talk about doing that and present it to you or the board. You know, someone in the town would have to fulfill or to complete the grant application. But anyway, I'll stop talking. Questions or concerns, or maybe Suzanne, you brought this to my attention. You want to sort of talk to it a little bit?
I was just trying to do a quick search.
The Berkshire one?
Because there's, oh, hold on. I'm not muted, am I? No.
No,
okay.
You're talking.
I'm good. Okay, so my understanding is it's supposed to be really easy to apply for this grant, and I guess it comes through Chapter 90. It's going to go through Chapter 90, and there's some grant, somebody who's donating money to it and helping it come along. And so the whole idea of it is to help community maybe find a way to make it easier for businesses to be able to comply with the new rules and regulations that have been put forward for, you know, the openings. I was looking for, I wanted to actually get to the website. If you go to the it's through Mass DOT.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was looking around town and saying, well, maybe something could work there, you know, maybe something at Market Basket, you know, where there may be challenges to make sure that when people are setting up outdoor vending spots or, you know, even if it's not just restaurants, it could be other types of vending spots. I think there was an example like Moody Street in Waltham, you know, like they just closed off a whole street. Mm-hmm. And so funds could be used for that. For instance, that was one of the examples that the Secretary of DOT made, that, you know, it could be just as simple as, you know, buying jersey barriers or something of that nature, to help a municipality make it safer for permitting a restaurant to open or a vendor, because obviously the small businesses don't have the money to put up front for those challenges. So that's kind of the purpose of the grant.
Yeah, what started this was you had sent a link to, I'm trying to think, oh, it's iberkshires.com. So I think it's like a news outlet in the western part of the state.
Yeah.
And it was Mass DOT offering municipal grants to outdoor dining and mobility. And so the link is, you know, I'm sorry, I probably should have sent this to John too, but oh, look at that, I did. I'm good. Wait a minute, hold on, Lobster Mania, I'm in. So it goes through and it says again what Suzanne just said. It can be something as unsophisticated as just creating some barriers to allow for the expansion of outdoor dining tables. You know, in it, where parking spaces would be, now tables can be there, but you need to put some type of a barrier up. You know, can the town do that? Well, right now that would be with town. The town doesn't really have a budget put aside for such things. But would the town be able to apply for some grant funding to do that? So I don't know. It's an idea thing, and maybe it's just a matter of being aware that this is potentially available to us, and as businesses either hopefully hear about it through, you know, a broadcast of this meeting or some type of notification, you know, perhaps they can request some assistance. I don't know what, you know, I want to kind of flush it out and
I'm curious I'm curious as what, Jeff, do you have any thoughts on this? Because I mean, this application starts next week, and I know the money's going to go really fast. So I think it's something that the town applies for.
Right.
So I did receive this notification of this grant. It was today, this morning, or thereabouts. I've actually asked Mike Woods to take a look at it. We haven't had an opportunity to have a conversation about it, but we are going to be looking at what opportunities exist to take advantage of the money. I don't know offhand, but it's something we will be looking at. Certainly, you know, with respect to restaurants, there are some communities that have more of an established downtown Main Street type of arrangement where it may be more suitable to block off a portion of a street, you know, in terms of having outdoor seating for restaurants and so on. Wilmington isn't really set up in that fashion, at least in terms of, you know, the restaurants. But there may be other opportunities that that are out there that we can take a look at that would provide some assistance to some of our businesses. I don't, you know, that's long and the short of it is we need to look at that, but I have not had an opportunity to do that today.
That's fine. And, you know, I would ask the members of this committee to, and Suzanne, you even said it, let's all just sort of, as we conduct business around town, if you see an opportunity, you know, maybe that's just jot it down and you know, lob it at either talk to the business owner or someone who's working there and say, hey, you know, have you considered X? And if they say, oh, well, you know, that's not really us, so we can't afford it, or it's town land or something, you know, to me, it's just be aware of it. And as project ideas come up, we can lob it into the committee or lob it to the town manager's office, and it may or may not be on the radar screen or warrant the grant funding, but at least let's, you know, keep the engine running. I don't have any ideas either, but and perhaps either through rebroadcast of this meeting or through outbound communications, and I want to talk about that. You know, folks in the community will become aware of this grant funding, and then the ideas will come from the community rather than coming from us. I think that's probably the best way for it.
Can I just ask, Mike, is the grant for temporary things, or is the grant for permanent things? Like when I think of street closings or Jersey barriers and things like that, I think those are like temporary measures. Could this be more of a, for example, could we build a big parking lot somewhere if we had this land? I mean, could the money be used for something more permanent is what I'm, I guess what I'm asking.
I think it's either. My
Either one.
interpretation of it is that it's either, but I don't know. Does anybody have a different interpretation?
No, that's my interpretation also. And so it, it varies, like Mike said, what, 5,000 to 300,000. And it also it's so broad and encompassing, and it's not a lot of money, but you can also use it to do something further down the road for plans for other type of economic development. It doesn't necessarily have to be just what's here for today, but it could also do something to link something up for tomorrow. So it's to hope, so maybe try to link up spaces together, for instance, for safe passage, whether you could even be biking or walking or whatever the case may be. It's pretty broad. It's to try to, make a safe connection between business places. And so it may, whether it could work out for us or not, I don't know, but it's definitely worth looking at, but I don't know if it will work out or not. And there's not a whole lot of time. I think it's going to go up like that.
Yeah, I do too. But one of the things, just thinking outside the box and thinking of, some of the questions that come in, we were just talking about the dance studio, but if there was kind of an opportunity to build kind of a pavilion, or maybe I'm using the wrong word, but I know we have that small pavilion at Yentl Farms, but I'm thinking more of a big pavilion where the community comes together, not only to people could sell things, people could do performances, people could that you're bringing in people. You could do pizza awards there for restaurants. You could do things like that where the community comes together. And if we had something like that at this time, it could be beneficial to a lot of folks too.
Yep.
Does it have to be on town land, or could we say to, like, I'm thinking over where Savers is and stuff, that parking lot never seems to be full. Could we?
It needs to be on an actual street, like within a right of way.
Okay, so it can't be on any kind sort of privately owned anything or another, even temporarily.
Doesn't seem that way, but I'm trying to figure that out. I think it's supposed to be within the right of way, so it's really street based.
I can't imagine public monies being authorized to be expended on private land. Doesn't make sense.
Well, that's why I asked if it was temporary, because maybe they, if we put it there, well, this is all going on and people need to be outdoors, you could put a pavilion type thing that could be moved later.
Yeah, it says, the last paragraph says it right there. Thank you, John.
What is it?
Generally, proposed projects should be implemented on roadways and or other public infrastructure owned or controlled by the applicant municipality/municipalities. Basically, it's land that is owned by the town.
Okay.
So that's that. Yeah, I don't know. We've had 10 minutes to talk about it, and like you say, that the money may disappear before we have an opportunity to really formally come up with a proposal. But I just wanted to get it out into the blogosphere, and hopefully anyone that's watching or does watch a rebroadcast of this, maybe the idea will come to us rather than us having to formulate the idea. And now that you folks are aware of it, be thoughtful of it, and if something comes up, lob it at the town manager.
Yeah, and Mike, I think this kind of starts a whole other conversation of, perhaps there's things we can propose to the town, such as that pavilion that Nancy was just mentioning, something that could, activate different areas of town that, I guess bits and pieces of what we've been talking about the last couple of months, but how we can benefit the greater community with both business and,
I think at the last meeting, we also talked about, benches and maybe creating a little bit, nicer public spaces for people to, you go get something to eat. Maybe you want to sit down somewhere and, eat your sandwich and, be in a public space. So I think we talked about that. I know Jeff had mentioned that he was going to look at it. So, maybe something like this could feed into that. I don't know.
I know what a lot of some towns are doing now is, outdoor movie theaters, outdoor drive-ins, things like that are helping boost the economy as well in their town.
Are those municipalities doing that kind of stuff, Nancy, or private businesses that have the facilities to do it?
I'm thinking of one in particular, like Stoneham. The town of Stoneham and the chamber are working on something together.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I bring on the ideas. What I think it takes is either us or one of us to flush out and maybe gather some more detail. Like, I don't know, Suzanne, you talked about park benches. What does that entail? So is that, you know, getting some information about where benches are, I don't know, where would you propose to put them? You know, just put it together in a package that can then be handed to the town to say, this is a recommendation that we're making. I think that has a little bit more meat on it than, or same thing, Nancy, you know, if we're talking about a pavilion, I feel like we need to put it together in a little bit more of a formal presentational kind of thing. Pat, you were talking about things too. So if any of you have an idea that we'd like to present to the town and have the town take under consideration, whether it's with grant money or future budget money, you know, take it and run, and you know, if it come up with a more formal proposal and bring it to the committee, and then we can make a presentation. I think that's ultimately, you know, what I think the Board of Selectmen would expect from us before the Board of Selectmen instructs the town manager to, you know, to pursue an avenue or to pursue a project. I think they would want to have a good understanding of what this project is. At least I would, if I were in their shoes. So yeah, if you guys are brainstorming, I love it. Bring on the brainstorming. But you know, let's put together something to make a presentation. So
Mike,
I'll leave it
Mike,
at that.
to narrow the brainstorming, would it be, should we narrow the brainstorming to Yentile Park, Rotary Park? I'm looking at my notes. Town Common, school fields, or the Swain Green? I mean, it really, I guess those are really only the kind of the town open spaces that we could access it, as far as I know.
Maybe I just would add the old Swain school site. I mean, the old Whitfield school site.
Oh yeah.
Whitfield, okay.
North
Yeah,
Wilmington.
I always forget about that one.
Yeah, everybody forgets
Love
about
that
North
idea.
Wilmington. I try to keep everybody, you know, keep us on the fast track, but no.
Never forget about North Wilmington. All right. Can we move past that? I think we've had an ample conversation about the municipal grants. Let's be mindful of it, and if there's an opportunity to leverage it, we now have knowledge of it, and we should take advantage of it. Communication outbound to the community. When we started this committee, the thought was that we would be an arm of the government of Wilmington to communicate with the business community, with the with the business community on behalf of the town, and vice versa. And you know, really, we've had these meetings, and now these are live meetings, which is nice. So I think there's an opportunity to get in people's living rooms more now than we were when we were meeting live at the town hall. And hopefully, folks are, you know, kind of catching on a little bit. But the question still remains in my head is, how do we get information out? So we're having some good ideas here, and ultimately, I think I would like to make the community, both residents and the business community, aware of our page on the town's website, of the update that we're going to make to it with the list of links, of the opportunity for or at least the idea about these municipal grants, and to sort of solicit ideas from the business community, and just let the Wilmington business community and the residents know of our existence as a committee, and you know, share things that are going on an ongoing basis. I don't know how to do that. We started kicking around the idea of social media, having a social media presence, and I think that's rife with issues in terms of, I don't know, communication and open meeting, and I forget what the other issues were. So is it simply a matter of doing a press release to the, you know, to Rob from the Wilmington Apple and to the town crier to get some visibility, and maybe the Patch to get some mention in their press media? But then, you know, that's certainly, I think that's good. We get some visibility, but are we getting visibility to the right folks? A lot of our business owners and people that run those businesses may or may not be residents of Wilmington. They may not read that press. I would hope that they would anyway, because it behooves them to be aware of what's happening in the community. But are there other media or other means of being outbound in our communications?
Mike, just thinking simply, I guess everybody gets the Town Topics newsletter with whatever bill that goes out with, water. So perhaps tax bill. Yeah. Perhaps we can put a little blurb in there next time. that bill goes out, but we can just add a small little section because that'll hit both residents that are on social media and then the ones that aren't on social media or where they aren't reading the digital subscriptions that are out there.
Right, and it will also go to the commercial, the non-residential. Anybody who pays a tax bill will get the town topics.
They may or may not read it, but they'll get
Right.
it. I always read it, Jeff. I promise you that. No, that's a good suggestion. Thank you, Patrick. So yeah, any other thoughts along those lines?
Mike, how come, was it Robert that used to attend these meetings from the Apple? Is he not invited to these anymore, or?
Well, no, he can call in and listen or watch. We're on live TV now. I don't know. He may even be watching.
Okay.
When we had the meeting live at Town Hall, we weren't broadcasting on WCTV. So in order for Mr. Hayes to witness what was going on, he would come. He would physically come to the meeting. So I don't know, Rob, if you're out there, thanks. So would it be okay with you guys if I wrote up some form of a press release and sent it to the local media outlets over the course of the next few days, sort of summarizing the events of this evening and some of the access points for information that exist on the town's website, et cetera? And then I would write up, I don't know, a paragraph or two to submit to Jeff for him to include in the next town topics. Do you guys trust me to do that?
So moved.
Second.
Damn it. All right. I'm not even going to take a vote on it. I'm just going to presume that no one has an objection. And if someone does have an objection, I'm completely okay with that. If someone would prefer to either write it or chime in, or if you want to slow it down, I can write it and send it to you folks and we can review and vote on it and submit it after the next meeting. But we're trying to move quickly to the extent that it's possible. So,
Mike, I can get you, if I can get these meeting notes off to you, not, obviously unapproved by the committee, but it's maybe to pull some points from, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. I'm sure it would be helpful. It's not going to be a copious article here. I mean, people are going to get bored reading my stuff. So I just want to summarize and give them some bullets. Okay, cool. We'll do that. And, maybe we'll do that on an ongoing basis, not necessarily the town topics thing, but certainly maybe after our meetings, we can sort of do a quick little blurb out to the existing media outlets rather than creating one of our own. I think that's, we've discussed that was probably going to be a problem for us to do.
Sounds good.
Okay, that's bullet number 2. Bullet number 3 is committee realignment. The members of this committee that were elected, if you will, by ourselves are the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. And so it would be an opportunity for those 3 seats to be shuffled. Our vice chairman is Tom Card, and he can't join us this evening. And our secretary is Lil Maselli, and she was unable to join us this evening as well. So this is a grand opportunity to appoint people who aren't here to these roles. No, I'm kidding. So this is the first time we're doing it. So I kind of would be open to maybe nominations. If someone wants to nominate someone else, I won't do elections until all the nominations have been done. So unless there's another way folks want to handle this, I'd like to put it out to the what is it, 6 of you, 7 of you, to see if anyone has a nomination to make for the role of chairman for the coming year. I have one that I'd like to make, but I'll listen to you guys first.
Mike, I nominate you again.
I refuse to accept the nomination.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm excited that we have this committee. I'm excited about the work that we've started this year. And that we are continuing to do, but the ball has, we got the ball on rolling, and now it's time for someone else to take the ball and run. I'm excited to be a part of the committee, but I'm not interested in being the chairman for the coming year. So that being said, thank you, Nancy, but who else? Awesome. I'd like to nominate Mr. Giroux.
I'll second that.
Mike, I feel very honored. My plate is extremely full right now. I do enjoy being on this committee. I hope to continue being on this committee. I just don't know if I'm able to take on the capacity of chairman and doing it with my full and best, ability. But I am honored. Thank you very much for the nomination.
Okay. You're fired.
Mike,
Someone else has to speak up.
Mike,
I'm sorry, Carol?
Would you go on as vice chair if Patrick were willing to do chair so that you could kind of give him a little more hands-on guidance than a vice chair normally would do?
Yeah, I don't want to strong arm Patrick. Look at
no.
Yeah, I mean,
so the question is, would you stay on as vice chair if you were nominated as such? Do you think?
Yeah, he doesn't need me for that, but yeah, I would, but I don't know would that change your mind, Pat?
I'd certainly have to think about it, but with the capacity of a chairman, it's a big undertaking. If any type of leadership position, you'd always want to be able to put 100%. I just don't know if I'm able to commit 100% to this capacity at this time, but I am honored. Thank you for the consideration.
Okay, we're running out. Nancy already told me she doesn't want it, so that's why I'm not nominating Nancy. So okay, Carol, Rob, and Suzanne. Any of you interested in the gig?
Can't do it. I have so much stuff. I just can't do it.
Well, you can do it. You don't want to do it.
No, I just don't really. Like you said, 100%. I have so much stuff going on. It's just I feel like I'd have conflicts. Just don't.
Okay. I'm presuming, Valerie, you couldn't do it, right? I mean, I don't know. You're just, yeah, as a employee. Carol.
I don't know. This is all this town stuff is so new to me. I don't feel like I'm ready, to be honest with you. I really have never really been involved in town politics till this committee. And I still am kind of lost in the process, I guess, more than anything.
That's fair. I will say this. This isn't town politics.
I know.
It's government, I guess, to some degree, but I'm glad to say that it's not town politics.
I think that's the beauty of this group. We're kind of the advisory group towards town politics. We don't really need to know all the ins and outs of town government. That's why we have experts that are in this group, or the experts that we can rely on.
And I can say this, Carol, and hopefully to make you feel a little bit better about this. Mr. Bendel, Greg Bendel, who's the current chair of the Board of Selectmen, has an intimate knowledge of the machinations of government process. And he indicated to me that he would be willing and interested in serving as vice chair. So in terms of between him, myself, Suzanne, and Valerie, we have a pretty strong grasp on what can and can't be done, and putting together agenda and that kind of stuff. Ultimately, the chairperson, in my view, needs to run a clean meeting, make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, and I'm not real good at that. And it's just putting the agenda together and making sure that that action items are acted on. I don't want you to view it as this Herculean task, and the folks at Town Hall help get you through the process of making sure the minutes are posted and the agenda is posted. So it may look real complicated, but the smarter people at Town Hall, do the heavy lifting. So I'd like to nominate Carol Boisvert.
You got it.
I know that Jeff's on the phone. So is there any, in light of, kind of all this COVID stuff that we just kind of are experiencing, is there any thought to having a town position for an economic development person now? I know there wasn't in the past, but.
Well, so not certainly for this coming year. There was no position. I'm not recommending an economic development person in the fiscal 21. Is it something that we could do at some point? Certainly it's something that Valerie and I have talked about. There's, but to answer your question, no, not for next year.
I will be honest with you. That was an idea pre-COVID. If there was no pandemic, I had hoped and frankly planned that this committee would start to put the bones together for a proposal to the Board of Selectmen and you, Jeff, to strongly consider that kind of a role in our government, probably for fiscal 22. And maybe we still will. The pandemic has really thrown havoc into everyone's lives, and I recognize into the town's funding life as well. But I do believe that there's merit to the idea of this. Whether or not it's feasible, I don't know. But I appreciate, Nancy, you asking the question. I think it's a good question that should be asked again.
I think quite honestly, it should be, I think that that the state should fund a program, should fund the position. I mean, they're from, I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I think it's really important for the entire business community to have a role like that. And I know that many towns have it. I don't, I think it's going to be difficult for chambers going forward, even to survive. And I do think that there needs to be communication to the business, the entire business community from the town. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if the chambers are going to survive, but I think it should be a state position. That's my thought.
Well, I wonder if that's an opportunity for state grant funding,
right?
At least in the short term. Let's get back to the matter at hand. Thank you, Nancy. I think it's a conversation that needs to continue to be had and come up again. Carol.
What about Lil? You think Lil would be interested? I know she's not here.
I don't think we can nominate and elect a chair who's not in the room, so to speak.
Yeah.
I would be willing to do it for one of the other roles.
Yeah.
But I think the chair needs to be in the room.
I don't know. It feels like kind of a big role for a newly retired person. I don't know. That's kind of my thought. I don't know. I'd have to think.
It feels like a default is falling on my shoulders here. And because it's my baby and I'm not going to let it die.
You're so good at it though, Mike. You really are.
I'm very much in Patrick's shoes here. My bandwidth is completely tapped between my business and my family and whatever. You don't need to hear about my life, but I'm not able to do this role justice, just from a sheer amount of hours in the day kind of perspective. And then, you hit burnout, even when there is some free time. Instead of researching economic development opportunities, I need to have a couple of minutes of not doing stuff. So, I was anxious to hand something off just because of the volume of crapola.
Is there any way, Mike, that there could be some type of supporting role for you so it's not quite so burdensome, or some type of supporting role for whoever the chairman? It seems like everybody's so tapped out. Yeah. Is there a way to do some type of support? I mean, I'm willing to do some support,
I'd be your vice chair, Mike. You could train me. Train me up. But honestly, if you're looking to do it as a paid position going forward, you probably should think about putting somebody in there that could transition into a true position if that's where you think this is going to go. That wouldn't be me.
We're all of a year or more away from that ever coming to any kind of fruition. Yeah. So it's an idea right now, but we're miles away. So I appreciate the idea, but I don't think we're able to execute on that. Well, all right. Well, all right then. This was tremendously unproductive. Sorry. So in the absence of anyone willing to take on the role, I'm not sure what exactly happens other than someone has to nominate me and I'll stay with it. Oh. We're only on chairman right now. I appreciate that, Suzanne, you've offered vice chair, and that's awesome. So we'll get to that in a minute. So someone nominate me and I'll say yes.
I nominate Mike.
Chairman.
So I'll take the nomination from Suzanne. I need a second.
Second.
From Rob. Carol, yes?
What?
I need your vote. Yes.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Pat, yes.
Sorry to do this to you, Mike. Oh, yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
say no. Someone say no. Nancy,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Suzanne, did you already say
Yes.
yes? Yeah, me.
Yeah.
I'm one. Yeah, okay. So 6 yeses and 1 no. I'm gonna go no.
Mike, I'll be your chairperson, your vice chair if you want to.
Well, okay. So there we go. I'm not gonna voice. Any of you would be awesome at vice chair, and I would welcome the opportunity to work very closely with any one of you. So I don't want to play preference here. So someone can make a nomination here.
I'll make a nomination for Nancy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I second.
I will take the second from Carol there.
Yes.
So are there other nominations before we take that vote? Is there someone that wants the gig that I can nominate for the role, and then we can see how the votes shake out?
Just to remind you, the pay for the vice chair isn't quite as lucrative as the pay for the chair.
You know, be careful what you wish for. You just may get it. Like, I was so passionate about about having this committee when I was on the Board of Selectmen, and now we have the committee and I can't shake it.
You're good at it, Mike.
So I see.
You're good at it.
Anybody else interested in the role of vice chair? Okay.
If
So
Nancy really doesn't want it because she's too busy, I would do it, but I'm perfectly fine to slide my vote over to Nancy. If people are struggling and don't want to do it, I do have the time to do the vice chair and be brought up through the ranks. But Nancy, you've got so much experience and contacts with the business, that makes sense. They know you. So I'm good.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. That's good. So 3 of us, by the way, Carol, do not make a quorum. So if there's need for us to converse outside of the context of this meeting about agenda creation or minutes or just brainstorming, we can do that as long as we don't then take the content of those conversations and bring it to the other members before the meeting. So am I right about that, Jeff?
Yes, yeah, there can't be that serial communication, so to speak, but that's right.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry, I forget who the nominations were made by and seconded by, but we have.
I think it was Patrick and myself on Nancy first and second.
Okay, so we have nominations made and seconded for Nancy. Carol, your vote is yes or no to Nancy?
Yes.
Mine is yes. Patrick?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
You're voting for yourself? Rob?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Awesome. Congratulations, Nancy.
Hey.
I look forward to working with you, Nancy. We've never actually had the opportunity to do that before, so this should be fun. And secretary, and you know, Lil Maselli is really, really good at it, but she has been unable to make some of our meetings. So I'm of the mind to leave her in the role, and you know, if she indicates to us that she cannot commit to it or something, then we can maybe take it up at the next meeting, unless someone here would like to take that role on. And you know, take the minutes during the meetings and then report them after. Is there anyone that would like the role here tonight? Is there acceptance of the idea that we keep Lil in that role?
Yes.
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 Okay, I'm hearing that that's unanimous, so we're not going to go through the exercise. So she will be delighted that she got nominated and elected to a position. That kills that bullet. We are on bullet number 4, new business, member statements and discussion agenda items for next or future meetings. Is there anything that any of the members would like to offer here? I continue, you know, if stuff comes up, as you know, all of you as individuals, if you're seeing things like Suzanne has done over the course of the last 2 weeks, if you come across things or an idea pops in your head, lob it at me, and then we'll put it on as an agenda item. So if you don't have one here tonight, that's okay. But be mindful of it. Don't, you know, I'm creating the agenda or the discussions for these meetings. So if there's discussion topics that you want to have, let me know that so that I can make sure to include it. I'll leave it at that. No discussions at this moment then, I don't see.
I think, you know, we get that action item in about the grant program, the shared street grant program. And it seems like the application process begins next week. So it's probably too late to put that on our next agenda. It'll be long gone. But to divert thinking for just a moment, how do you want us to filter if we come up with any ideas for that? Should we go directly to Jeff if we have some ideas? If we say we talk to a business and they, you know, they want to play the game, should we say direct them to Jeff and then give Jeff a heads up that, you know, so-and-so company is thinking of asking for some grant assistance? Or
I would say certainly direct it to me or Valerie, and maybe both of us. I mean, quite honestly, with the volume of emails I'm getting, it's sometimes, and I'm sure Valerie's in the same boat, but if we both get it, then one of us will pick up on it. So send it to both of us if you could.
I'll make a note of that, and I'll put that in the press release that I'll ink over the next couple of days as well.
it just kind of feels now, Mike, that a lot of the things that are to do with this COVID, they're all so timely, you know, like quick timely. So maybe for our agenda, we should look at more, start maybe looking more at long-term things a little bit again. Maybe we can focus there.
Agreed. Yeah, thank you. It's a good thought, and I'm glad to include those kind of thought processes. And the vice chair will certainly keep me true to my task, I'm sure.
And don't forget that grant process that we talked about can actually lead into a longer-term plan. It doesn't have to be just right here today. It can actually have long-term benefits. In fact, I think it says on there, I'm not looking at it right now, but from memory, that it actually will be given a little higher consideration if that's the case.
If it's more long-term?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
Before we go, I like when Val gives us an update on any new business coming to town, or if you've heard of any businesses that are closing their doors.
I haven't heard anything about businesses closing their doors, but I don't know that I'd be the first one to know about that. New businesses coming to town. I think we probably talked about this before, but Amazon's building a warehouse on Fordham Road, and they're making great progress. So I think that'll be up and running pretty soon.
The bank by Samards.
Bank. I don't know about a bank.
Is it Eastern Bank? I don't know. It was Robert Hayes posted it right by Samards on Main Street.
Okay. I don't know about that one either. They haven't come in for any permits. I will tell you that the owner of the plaza, which one is it? Crossing is the one with Starbucks? Or am I getting, I think so, yeah.
Wilmington Crossing, yeah.
Yeah, so the owner is looking at how they can reconfigure the queue for the Starbucks so that it's not blocking the bank. They're going to be coming in with something pretty soon, I think, to try to alleviate that.
Is People's actually moving out of there?
I haven't heard that. I don't think they'd be going through this if they were, but I don't know for sure.
Why did I hear that?
I had it on reasonably good authority. I'm reluctant to say it's absolute, but the person that told me this, I feel it was trustworthy, that the bank that you're talking about, Suzanne, Salem 5 had considered opening a branch next to, in the building that has, I think, 4 or 5 open slots.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Next to Simards.
Yeah.
So it's a small little branch there. But I've seen no forward momentum there, but that was, I think, planned before the pandemic. So maybe they throttled back on that. Who knows?
And then I know Montefort Law, that's on Church Street, they're moving out as well. They're moving to Woburn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's fast.
At the end of the year.
In the Textron site, it looks like there's been a lot of recent activity there. Did that recently sell, or is that still Textron's land over there?
No, so that is still Textron's land. There's a business called, I think it's Step 3 Sports. My understanding is that they're on Ballardvale Street, but they approached Textron about using the field space there. And you'll recall that, I've had some conversations with one of the folks there at Textron, and the offer was that we could receive a license to use the property, a non-exclusive license, but the town would have to pay the cost of upgrades to the field. And I asked Mike Woods to take a look at the cost, and it was going to be, as I recall, it was $200,000 or $300,000. It was a fairly expensive proposition, and it didn't make sense from my perspective to be spending town dollars on a private enterprise that we would have no legal interest in or right to even purchase. But this business apparently has decided that it's worth their while. So they have a non-exclusive license for an indefinite period of time to use both the fields and the tennis courts. And so that's what's happening there. They've upgraded the fields. I think there's now 3 baseball diamonds in there. But Textron is not, from what I'm hearing, is not looking to sell the property. They're looking to maintain it, but they clearly are looking to consolidate their operations, because they still have something in the order of 60 to 70 employees, which is pretty small complement there.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you.
The other thing you probably heard is Habit Burger is going into 196 Ballardvale, the corner of Ballardvale, 125. So that's a new business coming in. And then 613 Main Street, which is the old Expedex site, they are talking to some potential tenants, so they have some interest back there, which would be good. And that's what I can think of as far as new activity.
Val, what was the name of the burger place?
Habit Burger.
Habit Burger?
Yeah, HABIT.
Oh, I've heard of it.
And when is that expected to open, Val?
I don't know the date. They have a permit into us for some signs, so I think they're probably getting close. But we haven't done any final inspections of the site, so they still have a little bit to do.
Right.
No proposal from or in communication from the Casablanca folks for outdoor dining at all? I'm surprised that they didn't make an effort.
I know. Mm-hmm.
They did stop by the health department this week.
I think it's in process. My understanding, Beverly in our office had indicated she's been contacted by them, so I think that's in the works.
Okay.
And what about Michael's Place or Rocco's? You haven't heard from them?
Rocco's, I believe, now that you mention it, Rocco's is either in the process, or perhaps there was an authorization issued on that one. I know it's definitely in the pipeline if it hasn't already been granted.
And they have a small section in the back towards Weiser Street there.
Yep, right on the side.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
they do.
I don't know, 8 or so tables.
Yep.
All right, that's good. Cool. Oops. Sorry. Okay, that's cool. Public comments. John, nobody on the phone?
No one's on the phone.
Thank you. Next meeting date. Unless we have a specific need to meet before then, I don't know. I suspect we're still going to be Zooming for a little while. Is that the expectation, Jeff?
I would say for for the foreseeable future, at least the next, I'm going to say couple months anyways, but remains to be seen.
Okay.
We haven't said, there's no end at this point, but hopefully by the fall we'll be able to get back. But then again, who knows?
Right. Well, that would be nice. That would be nice. I'd like to see you folks in 3 dimensions instead of 2. So next meeting date, I don't know, is July 7th too late or too soon? I just looked at it real quick. Is that a bad week because of the holiday, or does that not matter this year?
I have a planning board meeting that night.
How fun. Okay. So I'm going to go back a little bit. Sorry. Back to new business. So reverting back to bullet number 4. Town meeting is coming up. What's the date, Jeff, please? I'm sorry, I don't have it handy.
If we told you, then people would know.
You did tell.
The meeting is the meeting is June 27th. June 27th, 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's going to be over on the softball field, which is off of Wildwood Street across from the cemetery. There's been, obviously a lot of planning trying to pull this together. The town is renting a tent. George Hooper and his folks have made arrangements for that. It'll be set up over on the third base side, if you will. It accommodates about just shy of 300. And then there's going to be a kind of a satellite tent, if you will, that we'll have set up for staff who are non-residents. So we'll have parking, handicap placard parking off of Wildwood Street. There's a small parking area there that accommodates, I believe, about 12 or 14 spaces. We'll also be looking to use the first 3 lanes, portions of the 3 lanes in the Wildwood Cemetery, again, trying to recognize that there may be some folks that have some mobility issues and want to identify spaces that are closer. Obviously, the space lower parking lot of the library will be available, as will the parking lot off of Adams Street at the high school.
Thank you, Jeff. I didn't want to miss the opportunity with this being a broadcast and potentially rebroadcasts later to get that word out. I know you're using other outlets to communicate that.
Right, and to that point, if you don't mind, so obviously this Saturday, the elections, granted they're uncontested, but certainly people are encouraged to come out and vote. We've set up through Tina Conway's efforts, arrangements to try to make the polling locations as minimize the risk to the extent possible. The number of polling spots has been reduced in each of the locations. So, just to try to be mindful of the spacing, there are these shields that public buildings has created to create space between the election workers and the folks coming in. So, we will do our best to try to ensure people are able to get in and out without, any major delays. I quite frankly, I think it's probably going to be a light turnout, but we're still prepared.
Indeed. Thanks.
8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Wow. That's this week. That's this Saturday?
The 20th.
Wow. Time just zooms by. Thank you for that heads up on that. So yeah, anyone that might be listening, please plan to vote on Saturday and attend town meeting. And I know there's information on the town's website about the town meeting, where it's being held, and parking, et cetera. So I would direct people to do that.
That's right. And just to that point, Mr. Chair, if people go to the town's homepage, there's a section, annual town meeting. And if they click on that, it'll pull up information about the John's got it here, annual
Wow.
town meeting. It'll pull up information about the meeting itself.
Outstanding. Very good. Thank you again. So we were at next meeting date.
Question.
I'm sorry, Nancy, go ahead.
One question. Just a question for Jeff and Val. Is there another order going in for face masks?
Not that I know of. Shelley has really been the point person on face masks. And at this point, there's not an expectation that there will be another distribution by the town. Obviously, if circumstances change, that may be revisited, but at the moment, I think the last distribution has been made.
Thank you. All set, Nancy?
If you need one, I'll show you one.
Yeah, for businesses.
I know, I'm kidding.
July, so I'm sorry, I don't know the other committee or the other boards and what their schedules are. So in terms of trying to identify a time for us in July, is there a preferred that you know of, Valerie, that we would be available, or John, that would be Zoomable? That week, perhaps between the 7th, 8th, 9th, or then we could even bump it to the, I don't know, 14th?
Oh, how about the 8th or the 15th, Mike?
I'm out of town, but don't base things on me.
So I believe Thursday the 9th is fairly open for a meeting. Wednesday the 8th is a Board of Appeals meeting that night.
Would you folks be receptive to July 9th, Thursday the 9th?
There's also, I think the 14th is open. John, do you know?
That seems open right now as well.
Yeah.
Is there preference for either? I kind of lean towards the 14th personally.
Okay.
Me too.
I agree. That works.
Sounds great.
14th? 14th, 6 o'clock. Zoom. John, I'll formalize that in a request to you by email, but you can take my verbal now if that's all right.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Is that 6 o'clock, Mike? Also?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay, Suzanne? Or
No, that's fine. I just totally thought it was 7 and I totally messed up, but that's
I think as long as we're Zooming, I'm going to try to go for 6 until or unless someone says, no, we have to bump to 7. 7's
Okay.
good if we have to run down to town hall, if we're doing live meetings so people can kind of get home and have the dinner and stuff. But a lot of us are working from home anyway. So I don't know. We'll leave it at
Okay.
6 unless there's a reason not to.
okay. Sounds good.
Thank you very much. We've done 6. The next agenda item is adjournment. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I
So
motion.
moved.
Moved by Suzanne, second by
Carol.
Carol. All in favor? Carol, yes.
Yes.
Mike is yes. Pat?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Thank you all very much for your time. Great ideas, great discussion. I appreciate it. Jeff, thank you so much for chiming in. We appreciate your time always.
Jeff.
And we'll be in touch again real soon.
Thank you.
Michael,
Bye, everyone.